Hello everyone and welcome back to Senior Cat Wellness. Today we're going to talk about cats, more specifically feline ownership, and what it's actually like to own a cat versus what a lot of people think it's like to own a cat. There's a rather weird mix of love and stigma around cats, and honestly, it's very long overdue that we unpack some of this because cat ownership can be one of the most rewarding things, but for some reason, it's still very much wrapped up in stereotypes that don't quite make too much sense, if we're being honest. First off, cats are wonderful companions, and yeah, I get it, they've got that mysterious vibe about them at times, aloof at times, but anyone who's actually lived with a cat knows they've got huge personalities. Some are cuddly, some are rather chaotic, and some are total drama queens, let's call them, and some are very much like your chill and kicked back best friend or your roommate who wants to just chill and watch the game and hang out on the sofa with you. Some felines are also very low maintenance, super low maintenance actually, compared to other pets. No early morning walks, no intense grooming schedules per se, no barking. That's a big plus in some people's world. No barking at every noise outside or every noise inside. Cats are kind of perfect for folks with busy lives and smaller living spaces like a small apartment. Felines are very independent, but that certainly doesn't mean they don't love hard and can't become your best friend in some cases. Some of the strongest bonds are between people and their felines. Just ask anyone who's had a cat curl up with him after a long, rough, and very stressful day. But here's the kicker, here's the thing. As loved as cats are, there's still these super rather outdated and annoying stereotypes and stigmas that can be attached to owning one, not the cat necessarily at all times, but the actual person who is the owner. So in today's video, we'll dive into some of the most common stigmas and stereotypes and why some of them perhaps need to go. Let's start off, and this is possibly a no-brainer, but let's go ahead and get it out of the way. We'll start with a bit of a classic, I'll call it, the crazy cat lady. Need I say more? You've all likely heard it. Maybe you've even joked about it yourself. The idea that if a woman has multiple cats, she's automatically single and undesirable and very lonely and perhaps unstable, yada yada yada. It's always an image of a middle-aged or perhaps older woman with a dozen cats, and that's her whole life, and she never leaves her house, and she's always yelling at people in the neighborhood, you know, the get off my lawn, the Karens, as they call them these days. Their stereotype has more to do with how society views single women than it does a cat. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is not always about the cat, but the owner of the cat. Not sure why there's a huge problem with the woman who lives with a few cats. That's really her business. But if someone has a pack of dogs or a group of dogs, if a woman owns 5 dogs, you really don't hear much of anything. But if a woman owns 5 cats, well, you can finish the rest. Cat ownership should never be a punchline for someone's life choices. I mean, some people's life choices could be a punchline, let's be honest, but I don't think your pet of choice should factor into any of it. And it's not just women who get the weird judgment. The fellas, they get it too, just in a very different way. If a guy owns a cat, what's the old stereotype? There's an idea that somehow he's less masculine, let's say. Like, here again, not sure what that has to do with your masculinity, lack thereof, whether you're male or female. Yeah, your pet of choice is your pet of choice. It really doesn't have too much reflection on anything else that you do or enjoy. I'm a hardcore sports guy, so I think just my ownership of cats and what I do, dealing with cats, sort of kicks every stereotype out the window when it comes to 99% of every other aspect in my life. But the whole men with cats, it's gotten maybe a tad better recently, especially with the age of social media. But you've got the whole cat dad vibe going on that sort of kicks some of those stigmas to the curb. But yeah, there's a stigma for sure hanging around women with cats and fellas with cats. It's outdated, but it's just the way it is, and it certainly is a known stigma. Here's another big one, the myth that cats are cold. Here's one that is about the cat itself, the feline itself. The cats are cold and unaffectionate and yada yada yada. Felines, they do show love differently. It's not always a tail wagging and face licking like a dog. Sometimes it's just them being close to you on the sofa, or head-butting your shin, or your forehead, or your forearm, or bringing you a random sock as a gift, or perhaps something they found outside. But felines certainly can be quite affectionate, and They can, but they're rather subtle about it compared to, say, our canine friends. But there's a misconception that actually affects adoption. Unfortunately, sometimes these perceptions that cats are cold and dogs are wonderful. A lot of cats, they do sit away in shelters longer than dogs, especially adult felines and unfortunately senior cats, because a lot of people assume that they won't be friendly. Every cat is very different, and some want to be on your lap all day and some want more space, but both need to be loved and both have their own unique personalities, and that's just fine. Now let's discuss the idea that cat owners, turning things back to us people, the owners, that we're just a bunch of socially awkward weirdos and introverts and stuff. There's a perception that people who like cats and own a bunch of cats are perhaps a little bit different within society, perhaps less social and less warm. Here again, what you own really has nothing to do with who you are. Are there plenty of cat owners who are introverts and loners? Sure. Are there plenty of cat owners who will talk your head off and are the life of the party? Sure. And that's exactly the way it should be. A lot of cat owners are introverts, and but that's fine. A lot are outgoing, and that's just fine too. But owning a cat shouldn't be a personality diagnosis. Tons of cat owners are very outgoing, like I said, adventurous and creative, highly successful. There shouldn't be a type tagged to the person just because of the pet they own. And here's another thing, taking it back to the cats themselves, that felines are dirty. People love to bring up the litter box aspect and the fur all over the place and perhaps some diseases. Here's the reality. Cats are incredibly clean animals, and anybody who's owned one for just a few weeks or a month can tell you that. Felines groom themselves constantly. They're always burying their waste in that aforementioned litter box, and they don't roll around in random things as much compared to our canine friends. If you clean the litter box regularly and take your cat to the vet, the health risks are very minimal, way lower than people make them out to be. And that's just one of those myths that's been blown way out of proportion. And honestly, a lot of these stigmas, they come from, you guessed it, and you shouldn't be surprised, they come from pop culture. Everything on TV, everything that you've ever seen, any memes created that have just taken on a life of their own on social media. Once the culture grabs a hold of something, it's hard for them to let it go, right, wrong, or indifferent, so it just takes a while. But thankfully, a bit of this is changing. More people are sharing their actual stories, real-life stories of real ownership, and showing the true side of not only cats, but cat owners, the affectionate moments of the cat and the owner, the goofy behaviors associated, and these deep bonds and connections. And I think the more we talk about it, the easier it will be to sort of shut down some of this outdated stuff. So if you love your cats or you're thinking about getting one, if you're watching this video and all you've heard is the stereotypes, don't let those stereotypes get in your way, and certainly don't let them get in your head. Feline ownership doesn't say anything bad about you. It doesn't say anything good about you. It really has no connection to who you are as a person. If you want a cat, hey, go get one. It just means that you've chosen to take a feline into your home, if that's your persuasion, and you've also chosen to take in one of the most unique, intelligent, sometimes one of the most misunderstood animals out there. So, to the wonderful audience of Senior Cat Wellness, what are your personal thoughts regarding the negative stereotypes and stigmas of felines and feline owners, and have you faced any of them as your time as a cat owner? Any personal stories to share? If so, that comment section, as always, it's all yours. And if you enjoyed today's content, please like, share, and subscribe to Senior Cat Wellness. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.